In this episode, Bonnie Bakhtiari, a brand strategist and designer, shares her insight on working with luxury high-end clients. She discusses her accidental journey into entrepreneurship and how her background in journalism has influenced her brand strategy work. We chatted about the importance of understanding the transformation that high-end clients seek and the need for personalized and custom client experiences in that arena. She also highlighted the common mistakes entrepreneurs make when trying to reach the high-end market and provided some practical steps for developing a successful brand strategy. Let's hear more from Bonnie. Welcome to the Accidental CEO podcast, where we bridge the gap between the creativity you love and the CEO mindset you need. I'm your host, Nata Salvatore, wedding photographer and business educator. Find full show notes and resources at accidentalceopod.com. Let's get into today's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Accidental CEO podcast. Today, I have Bonnie Bakhtiari with me, and hopefully I said her last name correctly. I did ask her right before we press play, but of course, seconds have gone by, and who knows? She'll let me know. But she is a brand strategist and designer, and we're going to specifically focus today on talking about working with luxury high-end clients. So she has lots of tips to share with you. I'm so excited to have her here. Welcome, Bonnie.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. And by the way, you did in fact nail the pronunciation. So good job.
Or started with points already. I like it.
We're already ahead.
Yeah. So just tell everybody, who you are, what do you do, and where are you located? Let's start with that.
Yeah, well, like you said, my name is Bonnie. I am a brand designer and strategist based in beautiful Waco, Texas. Since 2012, I have been serving incredible creatives and service-based business owners to craft thoughtful, strategic, and elevated brands that empower them to charge more for their work, consistently connect with their ideal clients, and really, position themselves as the go-to experts in their industry. So that's a little bit about what I do. I'm so excited to be chatting on the Accidental CEO podcast because I definitely resonate as an accidental entrepreneur myself. I kind of fell into this out of college. It was kind of not really something that I ever anticipated doing. I didn't set out to have these big dreams of being an entrepreneur or having my own business or anything like that. It was kind of this let me try this and see if it works. And, if it doesn't, okay. If it does, amazing. And here we are 12 years later. So I guess it's safe to say that it's been working out okay.
I think you did well. I
mean, I don't really know how we know when we've quote unquote made it. I don't even think that I would say that I've made it, but I'm doing something and it's working. So I'm going to keep at it.
You made it. You have made it. I'm here to put a stamp on it. You've made it. You have done it. You're surviving. You are thriving. I'm sure everything's going great. Was your degree in college in the same area?
Actually, my degree's in journalism. So kind of I would say sort of like a sister field, but not graphic design. I didn't go to art school. I actually went to journalism school. And one thing that I think is really cool about that is the expertise that I gleaned in working in newspapers and writing and interviewing people. I actually think that really translates well into the brand strategy and design industry because so much of the work that I do working with my clients is actually kind of like interviewing. It's sitting down and really chatting with them and getting to know more about their brands and the heart behind those brands and the why behind their work and who their ideal clients are and their core values and all of these things. So I think that actually having some expertise around interviewing and chatting with people and feeling comfortable in that role has kind of supported me in going through this process and kind of creating a system that really works for me and my clients.
Yeah, I'm sure that helped. I'm sure there was a lot of transferable skills that you were able to utilize, especially from like you said, being able to interview people and understand what questions to ask so you can get the essence of what they're trying to portray in their work. So I'm very excited that you're able to use some of the skills into the profession you chose to go into. So let's dive into your journey a little bit more. Tell us a little bit of the focus on those pivotal moments that shaped how you approach crafting that elevated brand with creative entrepreneurs.
So, when I think about creating that process and really what has gone into that process, it's definitely been, over the last 12 years, a system of refinement. And, even at this point, I'm still refining. And as I grow, I think my process as a designer and strategist continues to evolve. And I love that because it means that I'm able to consistently show up and serve my clients based on the knowledge and the expertise that I'm gaining on my own entrepreneurial journey. So over the years, when I think about kind of those pivotal moments that showed up, I mean, yeah, there was so much trial and error. There were so many late nights. There was so much Googling, especially in those early years where like I said, kind of fell into this accidentally. I didn't set out with this like formal business plan and years spent in business school. It was just me kind of trying to figure it out as I went along. And so I think that knowing what it takes to build something from the ground up, knowing a lot of the trial and error and the frustrations, especially in sort of that startup phase, allowed me to really, I think, infuse a lot more empathy and a lot more awareness into my approach with my branding clients in those early, kind of early days, because I was able to understand, oh, I'm going through this kind of to an extent myself. And so I know what it's like to be in your shoes, to be building this new business, to be, the kind of risk you might feel like you're taking to be launching something new, the investment of time and energy and resources that you're putting into having professional branding and strategy done in the first place. So I think that, kind of going through in those early days, that really helped. And then over the years, thinking about, okay, how am I going to utilize the skills that I have in order to support my clients so that my clients are getting the kind of success and they're seeing the kind of wins that really matter to them. So when I think about my incredible clients who are creatives, who are wanting to reach higher end clients themselves, it's about thinking, okay, how are we creating a system that is designed to reach those kinds of higher end clients in the first place so that we're taking out the guesswork, we're taking out the trial and error. My clients don't have to be the ones kind of going through the late nights and the endless Googling or, like binge watching things on YouTube. They can come to me, I can guide them through that process themselves, and they're going to experience that sort of seamless experience along the way.
I want to dive into that a little bit more later. But first, I want to take a step back here and ask you, how do you define a high end client?
I love that question. I think that this looks a little different because everyone seems to have their own definition. Like I've worked with some clients who, to them, a high-end client, they were charging like, their highest package was like $3,500. And so a high-end client for them would be like 5K and over. I think that we could really get into the semantics of what those price points actually look like, whether it's like, 4-figure clients, 10-figure, or not 10, but, 5-figure clients, those kinds of things. I think that it boils down more to who is the kind of client that is investing in a way that aligns with their values, and they are investing at those higher price points, at those more luxury price points. So we're kind of seeing some differentiation in terms of how people are making those investments in the first place. So kind of the psychology behind those buying decisions. And what I find about this is if you're a photographer and you're wanting to break into a higher end market, asking yourself, is it actually that you're wanting to break into the high end market and work with luxury clients who are wanting this very full, this very, kind of very thoughtful, done for you, incredibly custom kind of process? Or are you just wanting to work with people who are going to value your work and offer less pushback on your pricing? I think there's a difference between just wanting to work with clients who have bigger budgets and wanting to work with clients who truly do fall into that sort of luxury market, that luxury market being certainly higher investments, but more than just the investment. We're not just like bumping up the price on our services, we're also enhancing the overall experience so that our services are feeling so much more custom, so much more thoughtful, and so much more transformation based than maybe what you've done in the past. So I like to kind of dig a little bit deeper into it when I'm chatting with someone who is interested in hiring me and they're saying, yeah, Bonnie, I really want to raise my rates. I want to reach those high-end clients. I kind of want to like pump the brakes a little bit and ask, oh, okay, well, what do high-end clients look like to you? Are you wanting to pursue high-end clients because you understandably want to generate more revenue and more profit through your work? Or is it that you're feeling a level of dissatisfaction with the quality of inquiries you're receiving and you want to bump up the perceived value and kind of the perceived quality of inquiries you're getting? Is it that you actually do truly want to start to bridge your way into that luxury market? And only you, as the owner of your business, can really decide what resonates for you.
Yeah, I absolutely believe that there's a whole different level of customer service and customer experience that it comes with being in a high-end market. And, sometimes people forget to bring that up with their prices as they're offering something that they're calling more high-end. So I really love that. How do you define a successful brand strategy for high-end clients? For what are the common mistakes that you see entrepreneurs making when they're trying to reach that market and not being successful?
We kind of touched on this a little bit a second ago. Increasing the price without increasing the actual value of your client experience. That's a mistake that I see people making. It's not just because you call it a luxury experience and you're charging, like 10K plus does not make it luxury. And I hate to, kind of say that, but it's important for us to be clear about what is actually required of you as a business owner when you're starting to enter into these markets. So when we're thinking about a successful brand strategy, when you're wanting to reach high-end clients, I personally think of that from a standpoint of how is this brand strategy aligned with your values and how is it actually pursuing your goals? So what I mean by that is with a lot of people, I think that it's easy for them to think that the visuals are the most important thing when it comes to working with higher end clients. And that, as long as you have a like minimal kind of luxe feeling brand, maybe it's beige, maybe it's not, that's going to be your ticket to reach this specific group of potential clients. But actually, that's really not it. What I find is actually having your brand strategy in place and understanding who am I in this market as I enter this new to me market. How am I bringing something that is unique or that is memorable or that is transformative? How are you different, and what kind of value does that look like in the first place? So, thinking from a custom standpoint, thinking from really getting honest with yourself, whether you're going through a really thoughtful DIY process or you're working with a professional, I think it's so important for us to really sit down and think through, okay, when I'm pivoting to reach this kind of market, what am I actually going to put into this? And, sort of shameless plug for my own podcast, the Brand Strategy Podcast. I do have an episode where I talk about this a little bit more of preparing your brand and taking these steps to actually reach high-end clients. So I think that's episode 262. But all of that being said, when we're defining success to me isn't like this one size fits all, like you're definitely hitting these very clear kind of markers. Instead, success is actually created with your brand, your business, and your goals in mind. So for some people, pivoting to that high end point, it could just be like, that's really the big picture goal is you're wanting to break into this market, you're wanting to charge more, and that's how we're defining success. But for other people, that might just be kind of the first the first thing. The second thing could be, all right, once I have broken into this market and I'm, consistently charging these prices and I'm consistently connecting with these kinds of clients, then it's thinking about, okay, what's sort of that next step? Maybe it's wanting to be perceived as a, very specific kind of go-to service provider in your niche. Maybe it's wanting to grow your brand even more. Maybe it's you're wanting to offer even more luxurious kinds of experiences. Maybe you're wanting to grow your team. There's so many different things. Success can look so different because I do believe that success is a truly individual concept. So rather than getting kind of caught up in like, in order to be a successful high-end brand, I need to have a beige brand and I need to have a minimal website and I need to, like triple or quadruple my prices. Instead, think about when you want to work with these high-end clients, who are they and what do they value? And how do you want to feel when you're working with them too? It's not just about what are you getting, but also like, what are you giving? Because serving at the end of the day, I think is also selling, and selling is serving.
Yes, I really love all of that. Some great, great stuff there. Can you give us a tangible example of what a high end experience will look like to? You can pick any of the type of clients that you work with. So, just to give people, because we talk about this high end experience, and I feel like there's such a great concept, and it is variable, understanding that there is variation between what is high end for one person versus another person. But give us maybe a couple of examples that can help illustrate what that means.
For sure. So, when we're thinking about a high-end client experience, I think first and foremost, regardless of kind of the bells and whistles, regardless of, whether you do like custom personalized welcome gifts upon booking, I think that a high-end experience, regardless of your industry, whether you are a photographer, an event planner, a coach, a designer like me, regardless, your highest level of service is going to feel custom. It's going to feel personalized. So, in my experience, when we're working with clients who are at that more high end, that more luxury price point, they're wanting to feel like a priority and they're wanting to feel valued. So, if your experience can make them feel seen, heard, and valued, then I think you're already winning. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to like hand out your personal like cell phone number to every new client you take on and be available 24/7 to their every beck and call. Maybe this means that you're thoughtfully taking advantage of automations in your workflows. And when you're booking a new client, you have an automation set up that is, first of all, after you're getting that retainer payment or the signed contract or really whatever your process looks like, maybe it's an automation where through your CRM, you are sending over your welcome guide. You're sending over a list of next steps. If there are specific actions you want people to be taking to prepare for maybe your first meeting together, or if you're a photographer, maybe you include engagement sessions in your wedding packages. So maybe it's some engagement session prep. But some of these things where it doesn't necessarily mean that you are glued to your computer and you are spending a ton of time and energy, like anticipating your client's every need. But what it can look like is that you've done that work ahead of time and you've put in the time and energy and thoughtfulness to set up your process so that there are all these different touch points that are anticipating questions that your clients have before they even come up. So I think that there's this level of thoughtfulness, this level of personalization as well, and this level of transformation. I think that when we're marketing our services to higher end clients, one of the biggest things that can make that process easier and honestly more genuine is if instead of focusing on just the services that we are providing, we kind of take it a step further and we think about what is the transformation that my ideal client is experiencing when they choose to work with me? Like, how does life change for them? How does how does their wedding day improve? How does maybe they're not a wedding client, but how does how does things start to change for them and in what way? And so kind of looking back on past client experiences and using those testimonials as some insight, or even hopping on quick calls with your past clients who've just absolutely been the epitome of an ideal client for you and asking them, hey, how, what kind of growth did you experience when you worked with me? What kind of value did you receive from our work together? I think that those are questions that can kind of transcend a lot of different industries and a lot of different niches. So thinking about how is this experience, how do these steps set my client up for the transformation that I want them to receive at the end of the day? So as an example, when I'm working with my clients as a designer, as a strategist, it could be so easy for me to just, say, hey, hire me when you want to create a pretty logo and a user-friendly website. And I'm not knocking that those are incredibly, incredibly valuable services. But I like to take it a step further, and I like to talk about how your business is actually going to change if we choose to work together. If we're a great fit, we're going to, be able to give you a brand where you are able to dramatically increase your prices and consistently connect with people who want to invest with you and who are ready and excited to invest in those higher prices. And on top of that, then I'm working with you to position you as kind of one of the go-to experts in your industry. So when I'm thinking about my client experience, I'm incorporating touch points every step of the way that support my client and prepare them for that kind of growth. So it could be some thoughtful questions. It could be, incorporating a different meeting or something like that to sort of support your client, but thinking through what that transformation can look like on the back end and on the front end. That information is something that you can not only infuse into your client experience, but it's something that I definitely think you could and should be using in your marketing and your messaging, because that is what people are investing in at those higher price points. They don't just want a solution to whatever problem they're experiencing. They want to experience a transformation, and you are the service provider who's going to help them experience it.
I love that. Making sure that there is transformation to the client after you work with them. So you leave not only with services completed, but you leave them with an impression of that great experience they went through, and they're more willing to, I'm sure, share over and over again about everything that you did. So those are great. Today's episode is sponsored by Accidental CEO. Hello there, my CEOs. I'm Nata Salvatore, founder of Accidental CEO, an education and coaching platform where we believe every surprise in your career is a step towards greatness. Whether you found yourself unexpectedly in charge or you're actively seeking to climb the leadership ladder, we are here to guide you. I specialize in transforming emergent leaders like you into confident CEOs through target education and personalized coaching. With Accidental CEO, you gain access to exclusive workshops, one-on-one coaching, and a suite of online courses designed to hone your skills, refine your strategies, and amplify your business powers. My approach is tailored to fit your unique journey. I understand the twists and turns of becoming a CEO, especially when it's unexpected. That's why my programs are flexible, comprehensive, and driven by real-world success experiences. Don't just take the lead, master it. Our supportive community is here to ensure you emerge as a visionary leader, equipped to navigate any challenges and seize all opportunities. Visit us today at accidentalceo.co to learn more about how we can help transform your accidental position into a deliberate and successful leadership legacy. Accidental CEO, where you learn to lead not by chance, but by choice. Tell us a little bit more about people that are trying to pivot towards high-end clients right now. What are the first steps you recommend them take into developing their brand strategy?
Definitely what I said a minute ago, identifying the transformation that your services provide. This is something that I've really seen over the years, where when you are pivoting into a high-end market, when you're starting to, position your brand to work with luxury clientele, the marketing changes significantly, and not just the way that the marketing is delivered, but the messaging that is used as a part of that marketing. So At some lower price points, what we might see is more kind of like problem solution oriented marketing. And what I mean by that is like, I've got this problem, I'm looking for a solution. You, as a creative, you have the solution I'm looking for, so I'm going to buy from you. On the flip side, when we're starting to get towards these luxury clientele, they're not so much interested in the problem solution marketing. That kind of comes across as a little bit maybe too elementary for them, or it's potentially not feeling custom and not feeling elevated enough. So what they are looking for is that, again, that transformation. How is my life going to improve? How am I going to feel different? How is my status or my perceived status going to change? These are things that they are thinking through. So getting clear for yourself about how does my work support clients in that process? What kind of transformation does my work provide is going to be really incredible. I also definitely recommend, before you like hop on Pinterest and start putting together a mood board, let's kind of dig into more of the nitty gritty of, what sets your brand apart from the competition? How is it memorable? How is it unique? Right? I want you to think about those differentiators. I also want you to think about your brand values. So what matters to your brand and why does it matter? Values-based marketing now more than ever is so incredibly important because we want to invest our hard-earned money with brands that get us and that we believe in and that ethically we can feel good about supporting. So values are absolutely, I think, an important part of that process too. And then again, just getting really clear about who your ideal clients are. It's not just enough to say like, I want to target people with, this specific kind of budget. Okay, that's great. Now let's build on that. Like aside from their big budget, what do you love about them? What do you value about them? How are you uniquely equipped to serve and support them? And, kind of teasing that out a little bit more. And I think that first and foremost, getting into some of those kind of nitty gritty details, whether you're going through the DIY process or you're having a professional guide you through it, having some of those things defined will then empower you to make design decisions that are actually based on foundational strategy components versus just like what's trending on TikTok or what's like, cool on Pinterest right now. Not that that's not great, but it's not strategically designed. And I want you to be using brand strategy for your advantage.
Yeah. Do you feel like people struggle a lot with answering that question that you posed earlier of like, how is your brand different? How do you stand out? What makes you different when you ask that question to your clients?
Oh, for sure. That's the one where there's a lot of thoughtful pauses. There's
Yeah.
a lot of like, reaching over and taking a sip of water or sip of coffee to like give yourself more time.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I get it. I get it. It's tough and it's so deeply personal too. So I'm not as like, the strategist who's supporting my clients through this process. I'm not going to sit there and say, when they're responding to those differentiators types of questions, I'm not going to be like, wrong. That's not your differentiator. But I am going to encourage them if I see that there's an opportunity for us to dig a little deeper, to maybe tease that out a little bit more. I'm going to pull at those threads. So when you're thinking about like what sets my brand apart, what makes it different, I think for a lot of people, kind of the first thought is like, well, I don't really know if it is that different. I'm doing something similar to what thousands, millions of people are doing. And I think it's easy to kind of marinate in those thoughts. But instead of getting kind of pulled into feeling like, well, I'm just one of so many other business owners doing a similar thing, think about your process. Think about you. Think about your strengths, your values, the personality that you bring into your brand, right? Right off the bat, a huge differentiator that I see in every single business out there is the founder, the CEO, the person who is the creative force behind it all. That is a huge asset that I think we're oftentimes undervaluing. So I'd love to encourage people to return to that. Like, give yourself a lot more credit than you might be, and think about, how do you make your brand unique? How do you make your brand memorable and one of a kind? Because you are your business's biggest asset, I think.
Yeah, that's such a good exercise. One that is hard to do for sure, but a great exercise because we don't feel like we don't like thinking about ourselves and trying to come up with the positive things and praises. So it's a hard exercise, but such a good exercise to really help differentiate your brand from everybody else around. We talk a lot about standing out in the saturated market, and we try to look externally for things when maybe we should be looking a little bit more internally into, like you said, our values and what we bring to the table. I love that. So, could you explain a little bit more the difference between brand identity and visual identity and why both are crucial for connecting with high end clients?
For sure. So, brand identity and visual identity, they sound like maybe just different ways of saying the same thing, but they actually are different, I'm here to say. So, your brand identity, that's going to be more of those strategy pieces. So, your mission, your vision, your values, your differentiators, your ideal client profile, kind of those like nerdy things that I could honestly like talk about all day long. And then your visual identity, that's more of what I think a lot of us think of when we think of branding in the first place. So it's your visual components. So your logo system, your type pairings, your color palette, your website, any icons or illustrations, any, imagery that you use as a part of your brand. And we need both. I really do believe we need both, because I believe that brand identity influences visual identity. And if we're wanting to reach high-end clients, your visual identity, yes, is going to be what's going to catch their eye when they're scrolling on social media or when they're looking, on Google for, the next service provider that they hire. But your brand strategy, that brand identity, those pieces are going to be making them feel something. The visuals might catch their eye, but the actual brand strategy behind it is going to make them stop and make them read more and keep scrolling. And that's going to be what's getting them to actually fill out that inquiry form or book with you.
I always tell people about how, talking about the difference between the visual and the actual like brand and the values. Like pictures, the nice, pretty pictures is what makes people reach out to you for the first place. But what makes them hire you is definitely not that. Is the experience, is the brand that you portray when you're talking to them, and what you're going to offer, the services and everything else. So combining those two, definitely a huge difference when it comes to reaching the right people that you want to work with, for sure.
I totally agree.
So let's talk about storytelling a little bit. So storytelling in crafting a brand that really appeals to that high-end client. How can you provide an example of how effective storytelling has transformed maybe one of your clients' brands?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. There's so many great examples of this, but storytelling is so powerful. It's one of those things that takes your brand from feeling kind of, maybe pretty, but maybe a little bit kind of lifeless, a little bit maybe one dimensional, to elevating your brand to this point where it feels like this organic, living, breathing entity, where it feels like this huge asset to you and to your business. And it feels like this really intriguing, engaging, kind of like, motivating experience for your clients. So when we think about using storytelling in your brand, we want to really pull out more of who you are and your core values and how that impacts your ideal clients through all of it. So, some kind of simple examples of this is, if you are a wedding planner, it's easy for us to just sit here and say, yeah, you can, plan incredible, beautiful weddings and events. And if you hire me, I will take all of that off of your plate and I will guide you through this seamless process. That's good. That works. You're going to get some people's attention. You're going to make some, some great client relationships through that. But if we put more storytelling into it, if we put more heart into it, then it becomes, your clients are investing with you because when they choose to work with you, they get to experience their wedding day in a completely stress-free way, dancing the night away with their favorite people surrounding them without having to worry about any decision or any detail that actually went into that day. Because as the wedding planner, you're the one who is handling everything that is coming up, and you are giving your clients the gift of being able to experience a fully present, completely stress-free celebration. And what I love about that is we can use storytelling to paint this picture, right? Of, instead of getting bogged down in the details and talking about how you and your team are going to be handling everything from, when the bouquets are delivered to, final teardown at the end of the night. That's great. That's valuable. You definitely should educate your clients about that, but that's probably not what they're going to want to be diving into on your website or through your services brochure or through that initial consultation. Instead, what they're going to want to hear is they're going to want to hear how your experience has enabled you to create this very custom process that will mean that they are able to have their dream wedding in a stress-free way so that they're able to feel completely present, not only the day of, but in the days leading up to their wedding weekend, because you and your team are taking that off their plate. So storytelling, it can be something where you're getting really emotive and you're like pulling on the heartstrings and you're infusing a lot into that. It also can just be as simple and as clean as getting really granular on that transformation again and making it incredibly clear through your messaging on your website or through consultations that, this is how life looks when you choose to work with me. And I think that is when we're able to really paint a picture of how it's going to feel and what it's going to be like to get to experience that process. And that gets people excited to work with you. And that's, I think, what helps people choose to hire you.
Let's talk about social media a little bit. So, is there any specific platform that you find more effective in finding and connecting with those high end clients?
I think that it's not to be this person, but it kind of depends on where ideal clients are hanging out. So there's not like a one size fits all social media platform that is going to be this gold mine of, ideal client leads for you. It really depends on who your ideal clients are and where they are spending time. So if you're wanting to connect with Gen Z, TikTok is probably going to be worth your time more so than Instagram, for example. I think that thinking about who your ideal clients are and learning where they are spending time is really powerful. And more often than not, at least in my experience, word of mouth marketing. So having, past clients talk to their friends about you or talk to their coworkers about you or their family members. That is such a priceless form of marketing. So yes, I do think that, having a social media presence makes sense, but don't be sleeping on those more organic word of mouth referrals, because I think that's actually where you are going to be generating a lot of business. And when I look at my clients and where they've been getting leads over the years, referrals are absolutely a powerful part of that too.
As a coach and somebody who I try to practice what I preach, I always talk about the concept of spending money to make money, and how important that is to actually step into your client's shoes and understand the feeling of investing into a high ticket education, service, product, whatever it is at the end of the day. Because I feel like once you experience that, it really helps you better sell the service and better explain the service or the product or whatever it is that you're trying to pass on to your client. So, what advice do you have for entrepreneurs that are a little hesitant in investing in high quality branding? And how can they measure that return of investment, understanding that that might be a step that they definitely need in order to reach those high end clients?
This is such a great question, because definitely when you're making an investment into your business, and I've felt this too. I've definitely been over the years making my share of investments in different services or educational experiences, things like that. you want to feel good about the investment you're making. And I think that that word investment is one to pay attention to, because this is not a one-time cost. This is not like a sunken cost where you're putting this money into your business, you're hiring someone to create this custom brand strategy and visual identity and website for you, and then that money is gone. This money is an investment, and it should, when done correctly, have a measurable ROI for you and for your business. So this is not money that you're spending and you're never going to see it again. No, this is money that you're investing, and it is going to come back to you and then some. So we want to be looking at some ways that you can actually measure that, and you can feel confident of what, depending on who you are hiring and what that payment plan might look like, you want to feel comfortable. Thinking about how are you measuring that and how are you measuring what success looks like is not only going to help you feel more comfortable and feel really good about this, but it's also going to help the professional that you hire, because they are going to get that insight into what kind of goals matter to you and how you're defining success through that project. That's actually a question that I love to ask with every potential new client that I speak with. I always ask them, how are you defining success through this branding process, through this rebranding process? And the answers are so, so, so helpful. But thinking about, okay, how am I measuring the return on my branding investment? What does that look like for you? Some ways can be as simple as tracking your inquiries. In order for you to track your inquiries, I do want for you to already be tracking your inquiries so that you can compare, okay, in April, I had not rebranded and I was getting 10 inquiries a month. Then in June, I had rebranded and I was getting 30 inquiries a month, and they were all from ideal clients. That's kind of definitive data that you can look at, and you can see, oh yes, that was working for me. That was a positive, kind of outcome from that process. But it's not just about like, are you seeing an increase in inquiries, but are you seeing a change in the quality of inquiry? So are you manipulating the quality of inquiry that you're receiving so that the kind of client you're connecting with is a better fit and it feels more aligned? You don't necessarily need more inquiries if your goal is better inquiries and people who you feel truly excited to serve and who you want to be working with. If we're thinking about like specific products, if you're selling products, sales, website traffic, these are metrics that can start to tell you, okay, is this brand resonating with my ideal clients, my ideal customers in the way that I want for it to be doing? And then also, I think one way to really tell that maybe doesn't have such like a hard kind of trackable data point, like seeing an increase in sales or client inquiries or new booked projects, is checking in with yourself emotionally and energetically. How does it feel to do business? When you are, working with a brand that no longer serves you, sometimes it can feel frustrating. It can feel limiting. It can feel like that you're capable of so much more, but you don't have the right tools to make it happen. Once you rebrand, does it feel lighter? Does it feel more fun? Does it feel better? Those are absolutely, I think, components to consider when you're making an investment in branding, because it's not just about the dollars. Yes, that's a huge part of it. I want us to be smart with our money, but I also want us to be thinking energetically, emotionally. How are we showing up then, and how are we showing up now? And do you feel like you have more freedom in your business now?
Yeah, I would even dare to say that those investments that really make a difference in your career, that are going to be that pivotal point of scaling, evolving as a business, are going to feel uncomfortable. They're not going to feel comfortable. There's not going to be a price that you're going to look at and be like, oh, yeah, I'm good. I'll give you that money right now. It should be a little uncomfortable, because there's nothing like getting you outside of your comfort zone to light a little fire under your behind and get you a little excited and more intentional about applying the things that you're learning, and being, more active and growing your business. So it might be that one investment that makes you think twice and feel a little uncomfortable about putting that money down, that really shakes things up and really helps you move forward and step outside of that place that maybe you've been stuck for a little bit. So it makes a huge difference too. So tell us a little bit about your journey when it comes to failure. So we talk about failure just being part of success when it comes to going from an accidental CEO to an intentional boss that is very successful. So, was there a time in your journey where you had a big failure that turned into a lesson learned for you?
Well, over the last decade and then some, there have been a lot of failures, and so I've got a lot to choose from. But for the sake of time, I think that I've kind of been looking at like what some of those like big failures were, and so many of them boil down to me doubting myself and me doubting my intuition, my gut, believing that, this like shiny marketing knew more than I did. This person who's selling this thing that sounds too good to be true, was probably legit. Like so many of these things where you find yourself second guessing it, and not because of fear, but because of self-doubt, because of not believing in yourself. And even this sounds kind of dramatic, but almost like for a minute kind of forgetting who you are, forgetting how much you know and how much expertise you have and how long you've been doing this and how much value is in your brain, kind of second guessing that. That's when I've made a lot of decisions where I've looked back and I've thought, ooh, if I could do that again, I would, and I would do it differently. But reminding myself that, I am a trustworthy person. I make good decisions for myself. I make good decisions for this business, and I can rely on myself, regardless of what kind of failure you experience. If you are on your own team and if you are supporting yourself like that and showing up for yourself with that energy, I believe that you can make it through a lot of failures, whether it's a big thing like, making a poor investment. There have been times that I've made poor financial investments that didn't give me the ROI that I was looking for. And, I've learned a lot from it. And now, I know better. There have been times when I have, kind of like forgotten to believe in myself and to back myself up and to like show up for myself. And so I've kind of let other people take the reins a little bit more. And I've looked back on it and thought, ooh, I really didn't like, I not only didn't like how that worked out, I didn't like how it felt. I didn't like how I handed over my power like that. So I think, reminding yourself of who you are, standing in your power, being the incredible boss that you are, and having that ownership as well can support you through a lot of different kinds of failures, even when they feel really disappointing or really disheartening.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I appreciate you being vulnerable and just sharing that with the audience. Tell everybody where to find you if they want to work with you and learn more about your services.
Yes. Well, I, of course, would love to chat with anyone and everyone who found me here. First of all, I just love connecting with fellow entrepreneurs and creatives. And, I think that together we are such an incredible community and such an amazing industry. So feel free to say hi. You can find me over on my website, which is bisforbonniedesign.com, or you can find me, I'm most active on Instagram, so you can find me at Bonnie Joy Marie. And if you're tuning in here, I'm going to take a guess that you might be a podcast fan. And if so, you can catch my podcast called the Brand Strategy Podcast over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, really wherever you tune into your favorite shows.
Yes, we'll make sure that link everything for you guys. Bonnie, thank you so much for joining me. There was a lot of great value into the conversation. So I really appreciate you sharing your expertise and giving everybody some amazing tips on how to elevate their brand strategy if they're targeting those high-end clients. Thank you so much. We really appreciate having you.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, we'll see you guys next week on another episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Have a good one. And that's a wrap for today's episode of the Accidental CEO podcast. Thanks for hanging out with us in the world where creativity and business strategy collide. I am Nata Salvatore, thrilled to have shared this time with you. Remember, every episode is a step closer to mastering the art of being an accidental CEO. So don't miss out. Hit subscribe, drop us a sweet review, and spread the word to your creative tribe. Your next big breakthrough could be just one episode away. Join us next time for more insights, laughs, and actionable tips. Keep pushing boundaries, dreaming big, and embracing the beautiful chaos of entrepreneurship. Here's to make magic happen in your business and beyond.